I found the second phone on a Tuesday, wedged between the passenger seat and center console of my wife's Lexus. Not her actual phone, the rose gold iPhone she kept glued to her palm like a surgical attachment, but a cheap prepaid flip phone, the kind drug dealers use in movies. The kind people use when they don't want to be found. My name is Ryan Fitzgerald, and I'm a structural engineer. I build things that don't fall down. I calculate load-bearing capacities, stress points, failure thresholds. I trust numbers because numbers don't lie. People apparently are a different story. I wasn't snooping. That's what made it worse somehow. I'd borrowed Amanda's car because mine was in the shop. Routine maintenance, nothing dramatic. And I was reaching for the parking garage ticket that had slipped down the side. My fingers brushed plastic, and I pulled out this relic from 2005, scratched and anonymous. The battery was at 43%. I know because I turned it on. I shouldn't have. Maybe some part of me already knew what I'd find, the same way you know a structure's compromised before the calculations confirm it. You feel it in your gut, that microscopic shift that means everything's about to come down. There were text messages, hundreds of them. I sat in that parking garage for 20 minutes, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone twice. The messages went back 4 months. 4 months of, "Can't wait to see you," and "He's working late again," and detailed logistics about hotel rooms and lunch breaks that ran long. Very long. The contact was saved as J, just J. My wife of 8 years, the woman who cried at our wedding when she read her vows, the mother of our 6-year-old daughter Emma, had been texting someone named J about things that made my stomach turn over. Not explicit. Amanda was too smart for that, too careful, but clear enough. Last Thursday was amazing. Counting down until Saturday. I've never felt like this before. That last one stuck in my throat like glass. I'd given Amanda everything. We lived in a 4-bedroom colonial in Westchester that I'd personally renovated, room by room, spending weekends covered in drywall dust while she picked out paint colors and laughed at my spackling technique. We had the good life. Vacation house in the Berkshires, private school for Emma, date nights every Friday at whatever new restaurant Amanda wanted to try. I worked 60-hour weeks at Brennan & Associates to maintain that life. Amanda had quit her marketing job 3 years ago, said she wanted to focus on Emma, on finding herself. I'd supported that decision, encouraged it even. Told her we'd be fine on my salary, that her happiness mattered more than a second income. Apparently, she'd found herself. In someone else's bed. I took photos of everything. Every message, every timestamp, every casual mention of my daughter. Emma has soccer until 4, so we have 3 hours. That made me want to put my fist through the windshield. But I didn't. Instead, I did what I do best. I collected data. I put the phone back exactly where I'd found it, wedged at precisely the same angle, and drove home in my loaner car. My hands were steady on the wheel. My breathing was controlled. Inside, something fundamental had cracked, but the exterior held firm. That's engineering. You contain the damage until you understand its full scope. Amanda was in the kitchen when I got home, chopping vegetables for dinner. She looked up and smiled, the same smile I'd fallen in love with at a college party 12 years ago. Bright and open and completely false. "Hey babe, how was work?" "Fine," I said. My voice sounded normal. "Productive." Emma ran in from the living room and wrapped herself around my legs, chattering about her day at school, something about a science project on volcanoes. I picked her up, buried my face in her hair, and tried not to think about how many times Amanda had texted Jay while picking our daughter up from school. We ate dinner like a normal family. Amanda talked about her book club. Was that even real? And I nodded in the right places, asked the appropriate follow-up questions. She reached across the table at one point and squeezed my hand. "I love you," she said. I looked at her, really looked at her, searching for some tell, some crack in the performance. There was nothing. She believed her own lie, or she was the best actress I'd ever seen. "Love you too," I said, and watched her smile. After Emma went to bed, Amanda suggested we watch a movie. We sat on the couch, her head on my shoulder, her hand in mine, while some Netflix thriller played out on screen. I couldn't tell you the plot. I was too busy calculating. 4 months of messages, multiple mentions of hotels, references to Thursday afternoons and Saturday mornings. I mentally reviewed my calendar, cross-referencing Amanda's schedule, looking for patterns. Thursday afternoons, I had my standing meeting with the senior partners. Saturday mornings, I took Emma to gymnastics. Amanda had weaponized my routine against me. The credits rolled. Amanda stretched and yawned, mentioned something about being tired. We went upstairs. She kissed me goodnight, the same casual kiss we'd exchanged 1,000 times, and rolled over. I lay in the dark, listening to her breathing even out into sleep, and started planning. Because here's what Amanda didn't know about structural engineering. Before you can rebuild, you have to understand exactly how something breaks. You have to document every crack, every weakness, every point of failure. You have to be thorough. You have to be patient. And you have to be absolutely certain that when you finally bring it down, there's nothing left standing. I decided to wait until the weekend. Not out of mercy. I want to be clear about that. The timing was strategic. Amanda's book club met Thursday evenings, which meant another opportunity for her to slip away. Another round of lies I could document. Another hotel room charged to a credit card I didn't recognize because she was too smart to use ours. I needed more than text messages. I needed a pattern so clear that even her lawyer wouldn't be able to spin it. Thursday came. Amanda spent 45 minutes getting ready for book club. Fresh makeup, the good perfume, jeans that fit in a way that made my jaw tighten. Emma was building a Lego castle on the living room floor, narrating an elaborate story about a princess who could breathe fire. "You look nice," I said from the couch. Amanda glanced over, smiled. "Thanks. We're going to that new wine bar after. The one downtown?" "Sounds fun." "Don't wait up." She kissed the top of Emma's head. "Be good for Daddy." "I'm always good," Emma said, not looking up from her castle. Amanda grabbed her purse, the big leather one with enough compartments to hide a second phone, and headed for the door. I watched through the window as her Lexus backed out of the driveway, taillights disappearing down the street. I gave her 10 minutes. Then I opened the tracking app I'd installed on my laptop. 3 months ago, I'd added a family location sharing plan to our phone service. For safety, I told Amanda. So we could always find Emma if something happened. Amanda had agreed without hesitation, probably because she had nothing to hide on her regular phone. The burner didn't have GPS, but her regular phone did. The little blue dot moved through our neighborhood, headed toward the highway. I watched it merge onto I-95, southbound. Not toward downtown, not toward any wine bar I knew about. The dot stopped 40 minutes later at a Marriott near the airport. I took a screenshot, added it to the folder on my laptop labeled Foundation Specs, a name boring enough that Amanda would never open it even if she somehow accessed my computer. Inside were 93 photographs of text messages, metadata showing dates and times, and now this. GPS coordinates proving she was nowhere near book club. Emma looked up from her castle. "Can we have ice cream?" "After dinner," I said. "What do you want to eat?" "Pancakes." "Pancakes are breakfast." "Pancakes are whenever I want them to be." She grinned, gap-toothed and perfect. I made pancakes. We ate them at the kitchen table while Emma told me about a boy named Tyler who'd gotten in trouble for bringing a frog to school. I listened, asked questions, kept my voice steady. The blue dot stayed at the Marriott for 2 hours and 17 minutes. When it finally started moving again, I closed the laptop. Amanda came home at 10:30, cheeks flushed, eyes bright. "The wine was amazing," she said, dropping her purse on the counter. "We went through 3 bottles between 4 of us. I'm definitely feeling it." "I bet." She moved closer, wrapped her arms around my waist. Her breath smelled like mint. Gum, probably, to cover something else. "Emma asleep?" "An hour ago." "So we have the house to ourselves." Her hand slid down my chest. I stepped back. "I've got an early site visit tomorrow. Need to get some sleep." Something flickered in her eyes. Confusion, maybe. Or suspicion. "You've had a lot of early mornings lately." "Big project. You know how it is?" She studied me for a moment, then shrugged. "Okay, I'm going to shower." I listened to the water run upstairs. Thought about her washing away evidence, scrubbing hotel soap from her skin. When she came to bed 20 minutes later, hair damp and smelling like lavender, I pretended to be asleep. Friday night, we had dinner at Mario's, our usual date night restaurant. The Italian place where the owner knew our names and always gave us the corner booth. Amanda ordered the risotto. I got the veal. We split a bottle of Chianti and talked about Emma's upcoming birthday party, whether we should do the trampoline place or the pottery studio. "She's been talking about making her own bowl," Amanda said, twirling pasta on her fork. "I think pottery might be more memorable." "Whatever she wants." "You okay? You seem distant." I met her eyes. "Just tired. Work's been brutal." She reached across the table, squeezed my hand. "I know you're working hard for us. I appreciate it. I appreciate you." The words should have meant something. Maybe they had, once. Now they just sat between us like props in a play we were both performing. "I love you," she said. "Love you too." We went home. Paid the babysitter. Checked on Emma, who was sprawled across her bed with her arms flung wide like she was making a snow angel. Amanda changed into a nightgown, the silk one, the one that meant she wanted something, and I felt my stomach turn. "Not tonight," I said. "I'm exhausted." "Ryan." Her voice had an edge. "It's been 2 weeks." "I know. I'm sorry. This project, it's always the project." She sat on the edge of the bed, arms crossed. "I'm starting to think you're avoiding me." The irony was so thick I could taste it. "I'm not avoiding you." "Then what is it?" I could have told her right then. Could have laid it all out. The phone, the messages, the GPS coordinates. Watched her face collapse, her careful performance shatter. But I wasn't ready. The foundation wasn't complete. "I'm just stressed," I said. "Give me another week. The presentation's next Friday, and then things will calm down." She studied me, trying to read something in my expression. Whatever she was looking for, she didn't find it. "Fine, but we need to reconnect, Ryan. I feel like we're drifting." The word choice was almost funny. Drifting. Like we were 2 boats slowly pulled apart by current, not one person deliberately sailing away while the other stood on shore. "We will," I said. "I promise." She turned off the light. I lay in the dark beside her, listening to her breathing even out, feeling the mattress shift as she settled into sleep. My wife. The mother of my daughter. The woman I'd renovated a house for, worked 60-hour weeks for, built a life for. The woman who was meeting someone named Jay at airport hotels while I made pancakes for our 6-year-old. Saturday morning, Amanda took Emma to gymnastics. I told them I had paperwork to catch up on, which was true in a sense. While they were gone, I went through Amanda's home office, the small room off the kitchen where she kept her laptop, her files, the remnants of her old marketing career. I found the credit card statements in the bottom drawer of her desk, tucked inside a folder labeled Recipes. A visa I'd never seen before, opened 8 months ago. The charges told a story. Hotels, restaurants, a jewelry purchase at Tiffany's for $800. I'd never received any jewelry. I photographed everything. added it to the folder. In her closet, pushed to the back behind winter coats, I found lingerie I'd never seen her wear. Black lace, red silk, tags still attached to some pieces. I left everything exactly where it was. They came home at noon. Emma burst through the door, talking about how she'd finally landed her cartwheel, demonstrating in the hallway until Amanda told her to save it for outside. We had lunch, grilled cheese and tomato soup, and then Amanda said she needed to run some errands. Want company? I asked. No, it's boring stuff. Returns, dry cleaning. I'll be back in a few hours. The blue dot went to the Tiffany's store, then to a coffee shop, then to a residential address in a neighborhood I didn't recognize, a condo complex near the university. It stayed there for 90 minutes. When Amanda came home, she had shopping bags from Target and the grocery store. Plausible cover. She made dinner, chicken stir-fry, and we ate as a family, Emma chattering about her cartwheel, Amanda asking about my week, everything so aggressively normal it felt like a knife against my ribs. Sunday, we went to the park. Emma played on the swings while Amanda and I sat on a bench watching. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, smiled slightly, typed something quick. Who's that? I asked. Just Kelly, from book club. She's asking about next week's selection. What are you reading? She hesitated, just a fraction of a second. The new Celeste Ng. I nodded. Made a mental note to check if there was a new Celeste Ng book. Another small lie to document. That night, after Emma was in bed, Amanda poured 2 glasses of wine and suggested we watch something together. We ended up on the couch with some thriller she'd picked, her head on my shoulder, my arm around her waist. On screen, a husband was discovering his wife's affair through credit card receipts. Amanda laughed. So predictable, like she wouldn't be more careful. Yeah, I said. You'd think she'd be smarter about it, right? If you're going to cheat, at least don't be stupid about it. I felt her breathe against my chest, felt the weight of her body against mine, and thought about all the ways she'd been careful. The burner phone, the separate credit card, the alibis. She'd thought of everything. Everything except the fact that I'm an engineer. That I'm trained to find the stress points, the weaknesses, the places where structures fail. That I don't stop until I understand exactly how something breaks. The reunion was Amanda's idea. She'd been talking about it for weeks, her 10-year high school reunion, a chance to reconnect with old friends, show off the life she'd built. The successful husband, the beautiful daughter, the house in Westchester, all of it. I'd agreed to go. Of course I had. I was still playing the role of devoted husband, still maintaining the facade while I gathered every piece of evidence I needed. The GPS tracker showed Amanda had been to that condo address 3 more times in the past week. Twice during grocery shopping, once during yoga class. The reunion was at some hotel ballroom in Connecticut, about an hour's drive from our house. Amanda spent 2 hours getting ready, trying on 3 different dresses before settling on a black cocktail number that probably cost more than my first car. She looked beautiful. That was the worst part. She still looked like the woman I'd married, even though I knew better now. We left Emma with my mother. Amanda kissed our daughter goodbye, told her to be good, promised to bring her back something from the dessert table. Perfect mother. Perfect liar. The ballroom was decorated like every reunion I'd ever seen in movies. Banners with the school colors, tables with yearbooks, a bar that was doing steady business. Amanda lit up the moment we walked in, her whole face transforming as she spotted familiar faces. She grabbed my hand, her wedding ring catching the light, and pulled me into the crowd. I met teachers and classmates, shook hands, smiled at the right moments. Amanda introduced me as her husband, the structural engineer, sometimes adding details about the house I'd renovated, or the vacation place in the Berkshires, building the narrative, selling the dream. You two seem so happy, one woman said, someone named Kelly or Kylie, I couldn't remember. High school sweethearts? College, Amanda corrected, squeezing my arm. Best decision I ever made. I felt that familiar sensation, glass in my throat, sharp and cutting. But I smiled, nodded, played my part. Amanda drifted away after about an hour, pulled into conversations with old friends, people I didn't know. I stood near the bar, nursing a whiskey, watching her work the room. She was good at this, always had been. The social performance, the effortless charm. That's when I noticed the woman watching me from across the room. She was tall, blonde, wearing a red dress that stood out against the sea of black cocktail attire. She'd been staring for a while, I realized. Not in a flirtatious way. There was something else in her expression. Recognition, maybe. Or calculation. She started walking toward me. I set down my drink, straightened, prepared for another round of small talk, another performance. "Ryan, right?" she said when she reached me. Her voice was slightly slurred. Not drunk, but getting there. "Amanda's husband?" "That's right." I extended my hand. "I'm sorry, I don't think we've met." "Bethany Price." She shook my hand, held it a beat too long. "Amanda and I were close in high school. Really close. We've stayed in touch over the years." Something in the way she said it made my spine straighten. A warning signal, the kind you learn to recognize when you spend your life looking for structural weaknesses. "It's nice to meet you," I said carefully. Bethany glanced around, then leaned closer. I could smell wine on her breath. "Can I ask you something?" "It's kind of personal." Every instinct told me this conversation was about to go somewhere I didn't want it to, but I nodded. "Sure." She looked at me for a long moment, her eyes slightly unfocused. Then she said, "You're still in an open marriage, right?" She told me about it a long time ago. I've always thought it was so progressive, you know? So modern. The world tilted. I felt it physically. That sensation when a foundation shifts, when load-bearing walls start to fail. Everything slowing down, sound becoming distant. "What?" The word came out flat. Controlled. But inside, something was cracking. "The open marriage thing," Bethany continued, oblivious to the bomb she'd just detonated. "Amanda told me about it years ago. 3, maybe 4 years. She said you both agreed it was healthy, that it kept things exciting. I always admired how mature you two were about it." 3 or 4 years, not 4 months. Years. I realized I was gripping my glass too tight. I set it down before it shattered in my hand. "We're not in an open marriage," I said quietly. "We've never been in an open marriage." Bethany's expression changed. The alcohol-induced looseness vanished, replaced by dawning horror. "What?" "We're not in an open marriage," I repeated, each word precise, controlled. "We never have been." "Oh my God!" Her hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God, Ryan, I thought..." She said, "What exactly did she say?" My voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that comes right before everything collapses. Bethany looked around frantically as if searching for an escape route. I shouldn't have said anything. I'm so sorry. I've had too much to drink. What did she say?" I repeated. She swallowed hard. She said you both agreed to see other people. That you had your own thing going on too. That it was mutual. That you were both happy with the arrangement. Her words were tumbling out now, desperate. She talked about it like it was normal. Like it was something you'd both decided together. I swear, Ryan, I never would have, if I'd known she was lying. 3 or 4 years. The affair I'd discovered was 4 months old, according to the messages on the burner phone. But this was something else entirely. A longer pattern, a deeper deception. How many others had there been? How many hotel rooms? How many lies? How many times had she come home to our bed after being with someone else? Ryan? Bethany's voice was small now, frightened. Are you okay? I looked at her. Really looked at her. She was genuinely distressed, I could see that. She'd thought she was making friendly conversation, confirming something she believed to be true. Instead, she'd just handed me another piece of the puzzle. I'm fine, I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. Distant. Thank you for telling me. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I never meant to. God, I feel terrible. It's not your fault. And it wasn't. She was just another person Amanda had used, another prop in the elaborate fiction my wife had constructed. Bethany looked like she might cry. What are you going to do? Good question. I scanned the room, found Amanda near the dessert table, laughing with a group of women. She looked radiant, happy, completely at ease. I don't know yet, I said honestly. Bethany touched my arm. For what it's worth, I always thought you seemed like a good guy. You deserve better than this. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. She drifted away, disappearing back into the crowd. I stood there, processing, recalculating. 3 or 4 years. Not an affair, a pattern, a lifestyle. And she'd told people we had an arrangement, covered her tracks, built her alibi. If anyone saw her with someone else, if any rumors started circulating, she had a ready-made explanation. Her husband knew. Her husband approved. Her husband was doing the same thing. It was brilliant, really. Sociopathic, but brilliant. I felt something shift inside me. That last vestige of hope. The part of me that had been holding on to the possibility that this was a mistake, an aberration, something that could somehow be explained, died. Amanda caught my eye across the room. She smiled, bright and genuine, and mouthed, "Love you." I smiled back. Mouthed the same words. But inside, I was already calculating, already planning, already seeing exactly how this was going to end. She'd built her life on lies, constructed an elaborate facade that depended on everyone playing their assigned roles. The devoted husband, the happy marriage, the perfect family. I'd been playing my role for weeks now, gathering evidence, documenting everything. But this changed the scope. This changed everything. 3 or 4 years meant more evidence, more hotel charges, more patterns to track, more lies to document. It also meant she'd been looking me in the eye for years, not months, telling me she loved me while building an entirely separate life. I thought about Emma. 6 years old. How much of her life had Amanda spent lying? My hands were steady as I picked up my drink. That surprised me. I'd expected them to shake, expected some physical manifestation of the rage building inside me. But no. I was calm. Focused. That's what happens when you're an engineer. When you spend your life analyzing structures, understanding how they work, identifying their weaknesses, you learn to stay calm when everything's falling apart. You learn to think clearly in the moment of collapse. Because that's when the real work begins. That's when you start planning the rebuild. The hotel bar had cleared out. Most of the reunion attendees had drifted toward the exit, Amanda among them, laughing with a cluster of women near the coat check. I could see her from where I stood with Bethany, who swayed slightly, her third martini working its magic. I shouldn't have said anything. Bethany pressed her fingers to her temples. God, I'm such an idiot when I drink. You didn't say anything wrong. I kept my voice level, engineering calm into every syllable. I'm just trying to understand the timeline. When exactly did Amanda mention this open marriage thing? Bethany squinted, calculating. Junior year reunion. So that would have been 4 years ago, maybe 5. She hiccuped. I remember because I'd just gotten divorced from Todd. And she made it sound so modern and evolved, like you two had figured out some secret to keeping things exciting. 5 years. Emma had been 1 year old. I'd been working 80-hour weeks on the Riverside project, coming home to find Amanda nursing our daughter, looking exhausted and beautiful and real. Or what I'd thought was real. Did she mention anyone specific? No, she kept it vague, very discreet. Bethany leaned closer, lowering her voice. But Claire, you remember Claire Donovan? She said she saw Amanda having lunch with some guy at that French place downtown. This was maybe 3 years ago. Very cozy, lots of hand-holding. When Claire asked about it later, Amanda just smiled and said, "You two had an understanding." 3 years ago, the Patterson building renovation. I'd been on site 6 days a week, sometimes sleeping in the office. Amanda had started going to yoga classes 3 times a week. Or that's what she'd told me. The French place, you mean Bissou? That's the one. Bethany nodded enthusiastically. Claire said the guy was older, really distinguished looking. Gray hair, expensive suit, like a professor or a lawyer or something. Not Jay then. Or maybe Jay was just the latest iteration, the current model. My phone buzzed. Amanda. Ready to go? Emma's sitter texted. Everything's fine, but E wants to say goodnight. I typed back, be right there. I should go, I told Bethany. Amanda's waiting. You won't tell her I said anything? Real fear flickered across her flushed face. She'd kill me. You know how she gets about privacy. I won't tell her. That much was true. I wouldn't be telling Amanda anything until I had every piece mapped out, every load-bearing lie identified and documented. In the car, Amanda kicked off her heels and sighed contentedly. That was fun. I forgot how much I liked some of those people. She glanced at me. You seemed deep in conversation with Bethany. What were you two talking about? Her divorce. She had a lot to say about it. Poor Bethany. Todd was such a jerk. Amanda pulled out her regular phone, the iPhone, not the flip phone currently hidden in my jacket pocket, lifted from her purse while she'd been in the bathroom. Let me call Emma. I drove and listened to Amanda coo at our daughter, telling her about the party, promising pancakes in the morning. The performance was flawless. When she hung up, she reached over and squeezed my hand. I'm glad we're not like Bethany and Todd, she said softly. We're solid, you know? We actually talk to each other. The flip phone felt like a lead weight against my ribs. At home, I waited until Amanda was asleep, or pretending to be asleep, before I carried the phone into my study and plugged it into my laptop. The data extraction software I downloaded took 40 minutes to pull everything. Texts, call logs, deleted messages. The deleted ones were the interesting part. I trust numbers because numbers don't lie. The call logs showed patterns. Calls to Jay 3 times a week for the past 4 months, always during Emma's gymnastics or when I was at the office. But before Jay, there was another number, unlabeled, with calls spanning 8 months before going silent 6 months ago. Before that, another number, active for nearly a year. I cross-referenced the timeline with my calendar, with Amanda's credit card statements, with the GPS data from her car. The pattern emerged like a blueprint, clean and damning. Every relationship overlapped slightly with the next, a seamless transition from one affair to another. The hotel visits, the restaurant charges, the jewelry purchases, they'd been happening for years, not months. The distinguished older man at Bissou, the university condo visits, Jay at the Marriott. How many others had there been? How many times had I come home to find her fresh from someone else's bed, smiling and asking about my day? I opened a new spreadsheet. Column A, date. Column B, location. Column C, charges. Column D, known contacts. Column E, gaps requiring investigation. The data filled in slowly, methodically. I had 4 months of solid evidence for Jay, But Bethany's revelation meant I needed to go back further, dig deeper. The secret credit card only showed 18 months of history. I needed older statements, phone records, anything that would show the full scope. At 3 in the morning, I finally had a workable framework. 5 years of probable infidelity. At least 3 confirmed affairs, possibly more. A pattern of deception so elaborate it required constant maintenance, constant lies, constant performance. And Emma, 6 years old. Had Amanda been faithful at all during our marriage? Or had the affairs started even before Emma was born? I thought about the pregnancy. Amanda had been distant, distracted. I'd attributed it to hormones, to the physical demands of carrying a child. But maybe she'd already been with someone else. Maybe she'd been trying to figure out whose baby it was. The thought stuck in my throat like glass. I pulled up Emma's baby photos on my phone. Dark hair like mine, green eyes like mine, the same crooked smile. She was mine. I could see it in every feature. But the fact that I even had to question it, that Amanda's lies had made me doubt even that. My hands were shaking. I set the phone down carefully, precisely, the way I'd handle a cracked support beam. The study door creaked. I looked up to find Amanda standing there in one of my old t-shirts, hair messy from sleep. "Can't sleep?" she asked, patting toward me. I closed the laptop. Work stuff. Stress calculations for the Monroe project. At 3 in the morning, she moved behind my chair, started massaging my shoulders. "You work too hard." Her hands on my skin felt like contamination. I forced myself not to flinch. "Big deadline coming up." "Well, don't stay up too much longer." She leaned down, kissed the top of my head. "Come to bed soon." After she left, I sat in the darkness and recalculated everything. The affair wasn't 4 months old. It was years old, plural, with multiple partners. The open marriage lie meant Amanda had been setting up her narrative long ago, creating plausible deniability with her friends. If I ever found out and confronted her, she could claim miscommunication, could point to witnesses who'd heard her mention it, could make me look like the one who'd failed to understand our arrangement. It was sophisticated, carefully constructed, the kind of long-term planning that required intelligence and commitment. She'd been building her exit strategy for 5 years, maybe longer, maintaining the perfect wife facade while systematically betraying everything we'd built. Using Emma's schedule to facilitate hookups. Using my work hours to cover her tracks. Using our money I'd earned working 60-hour weeks, to pay for hotels where she'd sleep with other men. The rage that washed through me was cold and precise. Not the hot, explosive kind that leads to confrontations and thrown dishes. The kind that calculates load-bearing points and identifies exactly where to apply pressure for maximum structural failure. I opened a new document and started typing. Names I needed to contact. Evidence I needed to gather. Lawyers specializing in high-asset divorces. Private investigators who could fill in the gaps. Forensic accountants who could trace every dollar she'd spent on her affairs. Amanda wanted to play the long game? Fine. I'd been playing it longer, and I was better at it. She'd spent 5 years building her web of lies. I'd spend however long it took to document every strand before I burned the whole thing down. The flip phone buzzed. A text from Jay. "Miss you already. Thursday?" I deleted it and powered the phone off. Thursday was 2 days away. Plenty of time to install the tracking software on Amanda's Lexus, the kind that logged every mile, every stop, every destination. By the time the sun came up, I had a plan. Not just for the next week or month, but for everything. Custody arrangements that would prioritize Emma's stability. Asset protection that would ensure Amanda couldn't hide money. Evidence collection that would make any divorce proceeding a formality rather than a fight. I heard footsteps upstairs. Emma's light tread, then Amanda's voice, bright and cheerful. "Good morning, sweetie. Ready for pancakes. I closed my laptop and went upstairs to have breakfast with my family. I walked into the kitchen to find Amanda at the table with Emma, both of them bent over what appeared to be a poster board covered in magazine cutouts. Emma's volcano project had apparently evolved into something more elaborate. "Daddy!" Emma looked up, her face bright. "We're making a collage about different kinds of volcanoes. Look, this is Mount St. Helens, and this is Kilauea in Hawaii." "That's great, sweetheart." I poured myself coffee, noting how Amanda's phone sat face down beside her elbow, the replacement for the one currently hidden in my car. "When's it due?" "Next Friday," Amanda said, not looking up. "We're ahead of schedule for once." I leaned against the counter, watching them work. Emma carefully applied glue to the back of a picture while Amanda guided her hand. They looked like a Norman Rockwell painting. Mother and daughter, Saturday morning, wholesome family activity. The only thing missing was the truth. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek Paulson, my college roommate, and one of the few people I'd stayed close with over the years. We usually grabbed drinks once a month, talked about work and sports and nothing that mattered too much. "Jen's book club tonight got canceled. Want to grab dinner instead? Haven't seen you in a while." I typed back quickly. "Yeah, that works. Where?" "That new steakhouse on Mamaroneck Ave. 7 p.m. See you there." Amanda glanced up. "Plans?" "Derek wants to meet for dinner. His wife's thing got canceled." "That's nice." She smiled, genuine seeming. "You two haven't gotten together in ages. You should go." Of course she'd encourage it. More time for her to do whatever she wanted. I wondered if she'd already texted Jay, letting him know she had a free evening. The thought made my coffee taste like acid. "I'll probably be back around 9, I said. "Take your time. Emma and I can have a girls' night." "Right, Em?" Emma nodded enthusiastically, already lost in her volcano research again. The steakhouse was the kind of place that tried too hard. Exposed brick, Edison bulbs, a cocktail menu with drinks named after old movies. Derek was already at the bar when I arrived, nursing what looked like whiskey. "Ryan." He stood, clapped me on the shoulder. "You look like hell, man." "Thanks. I'm serious. When's the last time you slept?" "I sleep fine." I signaled the bartender, ordered bourbon. "Just busy at work." Derek studied me with the kind of attention that made me remember why we'd stayed friends. He'd always been able to read people, had majored in psychology before switching to finance. "Bullshit. What's going on?" Our table wasn't ready yet. The bourbon arrived, and I took a long drink, feeling it burn down my throat. Around us, couples laughed and clinked glasses. Happy people living happy lives, or at least pretending to. "You remember Amanda's friend from high school? Bethany Price?" "Vaguely. Why?" "She was at Amanda's reunion last weekend. Got drunk, came up to me." I rotated my glass, watching the liquid catch the light. "Asked if we were still in an open marriage." Derek's expression didn't change, but I saw his grip tighten on his own glass. "What?" Apparently, Amanda told her years ago that we had some kind of arrangement, that we were free to see other people. Jesus Christ. We've never been in an open marriage, never even discussed it. The words came out flat, factual, like I was describing a structural defect in someone else's building. But Bethany seemed to think it was common knowledge. The hostess appeared, menus in hand, but Derek waved her off. "Give us a few minutes." She retreated, and Derek leaned closer, his voice low. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" I found a phone in her car, a second phone. The bourbon was making this easier, loosening something that had been locked tight in my chest. 4 months of messages with someone. Hotels, restaurants, all of it. "Have you confronted her?" "No." "Ryan, there's more." I cut him off. The phone was just the start. Secret credit card, charges going back 18 months. GPS tracker shows she's been lying about where she goes. And if Bethany heard about an open marriage 3 or 4 years ago, I let the implication hang there. Derek sat back, his face pale. How long do you think? I don't know. Maybe the whole time. Maybe before Emma was born. That possibility still made my hands shake. I'm documenting everything, building a case. I want to know the full scope before I do anything. You need a lawyer. I know. Not next week. Now. Monday morning. He pulled out his phone. My cousin went through a divorce 2 years ago. His attorney was a shark. Got him full custody in the house. Let me text you her information. My phone buzzed a moment later. Patricia Wolf, Wolf and Associates, White Plains. Call her first thing Monday, Derek said. Don't wait. And Ryan. He waited until I met his eyes. You need to be smart about this. If Amanda's been doing this for years, if she's been lying to people about your marriage, she's not going to go quietly. I know. I'm serious. Women like that, they'll burn everything down rather than admit fault. They'll twist the narrative, make themselves the victim. You need to be 3 steps ahead. The hostess reappeared, more insistent this time. We followed her to a table in the back, away from the bar noise. Derek ordered a ribeye without looking at the menu. I asked for the same, not caring what I ate. Does anyone else know? Derek asked once the waitress left. Just you. Keep it that way. The fewer people who know, the better. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. And listen, you can't let on that you know anything. Not a hint. If she suspects you're onto her, she'll start covering her tracks, moving money, building her own case. I've been acting normal. Normal isn't good enough. You need to be perfect. Loving husband, devoted father, completely clueless. Can you do that? I thought about the past week, sitting next to Amanda on the couch, saying, "Love you too," when she kissed me goodnight, watching her text Jay while I pretended to read. Yeah, I can do that. How's Emma handling things? She doesn't know anything's wrong. Good. Keep it that way as long as possible. Derek's expression softened slightly. Kids are resilient, but they need stability. Whatever happens, make sure she knows none of this is her fault. The food arrived, thick steaks bleeding onto white plates. I cut into mine mechanically, chewing without tasting. Across from me, Derek ate in silence, giving me space to think. You want to know the worst part? I said after a while. It's not even the cheating, it's the lying. The fact that she's been telling people we have an open marriage, that makes it okay. Like she had permission. It's gaslighting. She's rewriting history to justify what she's doing. And everyone believed her. Bethany, whoever else she told. They all thought I knew, that I was fine with it. I set down my fork, appetite gone. How many people have been looking at me for years, thinking I'm some kind of spineless idiot who lets his wife sleep around? You're not an idiot. You're a guy who trusted his wife. Same thing, apparently. Derek signaled for another round of drinks. You said you found evidence of 3 separate affairs? At least 3. Could be more. I pulled out my phone, opened the Notes app where I'd been tracking everything. Jay is current. There was someone at a French restaurant 3 years ago, older guy, distinguished looking. The bartender remembered them. And there's a condo near the university she visits regularly. No idea who lives there. Jesus. I'm thinking I need a private investigator, someone who can identify these people, document everything properly. Patricia will have recommendations. She works with investigators all the time. Derek's phone buzzed, and he glanced at it. Jen checking in. I should probably go ahead. He texted quickly, then set the phone down. She says hi, wants to know if you and Amanda want to come over for dinner next weekend. The irony wasn't lost on me. Tell her that sounds great. Ryan, I'm serious. The more normal things seem, the better. Amanda loves Jen. She'll want to go. Derek studied me for a long moment. You're really going to do this? Play along until you have everything you need. I don't have a choice. If I confront her now, before I know everything, she'll just lie. She's good at it. She's been doing it for years. But if I wait, if I gather enough evidence, I met his eyes. She won't be able to talk her way out of it. And then what? Then I take Emma and everything else, and Amanda gets exactly what she deserves. The words came out cold, measured. I felt Derek watching me, probably wondering if I meant it. I did. We finished dinner talking about other things. Work, sports, Derek's kids. Surface conversation that felt like a life raft. When the check came, Derek grabbed it before I could reach for my wallet. My treat. Consider it a retainer for being your sounding board. You don't have to. I know, but I'm going to anyway. He signed the receipt, stood. Call Patricia Monday morning. And Ryan? If you need to talk anytime, I'm here, day or night. Thanks. We walked out into the parking lot together. The temperature had dropped, autumn finally asserting itself. Derek paused by his car, keys in hand. One more thing. When this all goes down, when you finally confront her, don't do it when Emma's around. Whatever happens, keep her out of it. I will. Promise me. I promise. He nodded, satisfied, and got in his car. I watched him drive away, then sat in my own car for a long moment, engine off, staring at the dashboard. My phone showed 8:47 p.m. Amanda would be expecting me home around 9. I wondered what she'd done with her evening. Put Emma to bed early, maybe. Made plans with Jay for later in the week. Or maybe she'd just watched TV, painted her nails, lived the life of a woman with nothing to hide. I started the engine and headed home, already composing my face into the expression of a man who suspected nothing. The reunion noise pressed in from all sides. Laughter, clinking glasses, a DJ playing songs from our high school years that now felt like artifacts from someone else's life. Bethany had already melted back into the crowd, leaving me standing there with a champagne flute I didn't remember picking up. Amanda was across the room, animated, gesturing with her wine glass while talking to a cluster of women I didn't recognize. She looked radiant in a black dress I'd complimented when she'd emerged from our bedroom 3 hours ago. The dress probably cost $400. I'd paid for it naturally, along with the hair appointment and the new shoes and everything else that went into maintaining the fiction of Amanda Fitzgerald, devoted wife and mother. 3 to 4 years, Bethany had said. The affair with Jay had been going on for 4 months according to the burner phone. But the secret credit card showed 18 months of charges. And now this. Amanda had been telling people we had an open marriage for 3 to 4 years, which meant she'd been planning this, or doing this, or both, for potentially most of our marriage. I did the math automatically, the way I always did. Emma was 6. If Amanda had started this lie 3 years ago, Emma would have been 3. Still in diapers. Still waking up at night sometimes, calling for mommy. The champagne tasted like battery acid. Ryan! Amanda's voice cut through my thoughts. She was waving me over, that brilliant smile fixed in place. Come meet everyone. I walked over because that's what I did now. I performed. I played the role of Ryan Fitzgerald, successful engineer, loving husband, while documenting every structural failure in the marriage I'd built with my own hands. This is my husband, Amanda said, sliding her arm through mine with practiced ease. The touch made my skin crawl. Ryan, this is Jennifer, Kate, and Megan. We were all in AP English together. I shook hands, smiled, made small talk about the reunion, and wasn't it great to reconnect after all these years? The women were friendly, tipsy, asking the standard questions about work and kids and where we lived. Amanda fielded most of it, her hand resting on my arm, occasionally squeezing for emphasis when she mentioned something about our life together. We're so lucky, she said at one point. looking up at me with those green eyes that had once made my heart stop. Ryan worked so hard to give us everything. The irony was so thick, I could have measured it with calipers. "And you're still okay with the arrangement?" Jennifer asked, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "I don't think I could do it." My spine went rigid. Amanda's hand tightened on my arm, just slightly, just enough that I felt it. "What arrangement?" I asked, keeping my voice level, curious, nothing more. Jennifer glanced at Amanda, suddenly uncertain. "Oh, I just meant, you know." "Jennifer," Amanda said, laughing lightly, "you're thinking of someone else. We're boringly traditional." "Really?" Jennifer's brow furrowed. "I could have sworn you said, 'You're thinking of Stephanie Lee,'" Kate interjected. "Remember? She and her husband have that whole thing." The conversation shifted, moved on, but I felt Amanda's pulse racing where her wrist pressed against my arm. When we finally extracted ourselves a few minutes later, she kept her smile locked in place until we were alone near the coat check. "That was weird," she said, her tone carefully casual. "Jennifer's had way too much to drink." "Seems like a lot of people have," I said. "Small-town reunions." She rolled her eyes, still playing it light. "Everyone gets messy." I looked at her, really looked at her. The perfect makeup, the styled hair, the dress that hugged her body in all the right places. The body I'd held, loved, worshipped for 8 years while she'd been doing the same with God knows how many other men. "Bethany said something similar," I said. The change was microscopic. A fractional tightening around her eyes. A barely perceptible pause before she spoke. "Bethany. Bethany Price. She came up to me earlier." I watched her face carefully, cataloging every micro-expression. "Said you'd told her we had an open marriage. 3 or 4 years ago, she thought." Amanda laughed, but it came out half a beat too late. "God, Bethany, she's been hitting the wine hard. I haven't talked to her in forever." She seemed pretty clear about it. "Ryan." Amanda touched my chest, her hand splayed over my heart. "You know how these things go. Someone misunderstands something, tells someone else, and suddenly there's this whole story that never happened. It's like telephone. Everything gets garbled." "So you never told anyone we had an open marriage?" "Of course not." Her eyes met mine, steady, convincing. If I didn't know about the burner phone, the secret credit card, the GPS coordinates at hotels and condos, I would have believed her completely. "Why would I say that? We don't." "Right," I said. "We don't." She smiled, relieved, and kissed my cheek. "Thank you for coming tonight. I know these things aren't really your scene." "Anything for you," I said, and meant it in ways she couldn't begin to understand. We stayed another hour. I watched Amanda work the room, hugging old friends, laughing at stories from 20 years ago, playing the part of the successful, happily married woman who'd made something of herself. Several more people made oblique references to our arrangement, or our understanding, before catching themselves and changing the subject. Each time, Amanda smoothly redirected, laughed it off, blamed alcohol or confusion or mistaken identity. But I counted them. 5 people total, including Bethany and Jennifer, who seemed to think Amanda had told them we had some kind of non-traditional marriage. 5 people who'd been fed a story that made Amanda's behavior acceptable, explainable, something other than what it actually was. Betrayal. On the drive home, Amanda kicked off her heels and sighed contentedly. "That was actually fun. I'm glad we went." I said, navigating the dark roads back toward Westchester. "Did you have an okay time? I know you didn't know anyone." "It was fine. Derek's watching Emma until midnight, right?" "Right." She reached over and put her hand on my thigh. "So we have the house to ourselves for a bit." The suggestion in her voice was unmistakable. I kept my eyes on the road, my hands steady on the wheel. "I'm pretty tired," I said. "Oh, Was that disappointment? Relief? I couldn't tell anymore. Okay, rain check then. We drove in silence for a while. Amanda scrolled through her phone, her regular phone, the iPhone she carried openly. I wondered if she was texting Jay on the burner, making plans for next week, coordinating stories. The GPS tracker I'd installed would tell me where she went, but it wouldn't tell me why she'd done this. Why she'd taken something good and systematically destroyed it while smiling to my face. Those people who said that stuff, Amanda said suddenly, about the open marriage thing, that really bothered me. Yeah? It's just so weird, you know? Where would they even get that idea? She shook her head. Small towns. Everyone thinks they know everyone else's business. Maybe someone was spreading rumors, I said. Maybe. She was quiet for a moment. I hope you know none of that's true. I would never… I mean, we're solid, right? You and me? The audacity of it took my breath away. She was lying to my face while simultaneously seeking reassurance that I believed her lies. Solid, I echoed. Good. She squeezed my leg. I love you. Love you too. The words stuck in my throat like glass, just like they had every time I'd said them since finding that phone. But I said them anyway, because the performance required it. Because I needed more time to document everything, to understand the full scope of what she'd built on top of our marriage like a parasitic structure, slowly crushing the foundation beneath it. We pulled into our driveway at 11:30. The house was dark, except for the living room lamp Derek always left on. Amanda went inside first, calling out for Derek, while I stood in the garage for a moment, breathing in the cool November air. 3 to 4 years. I pulled out my own phone and opened the GPS tracking app. Amanda's Lexus was here, obviously, but the burner phone, the one I'd carefully returned to her car after downloading its contents, showed a different story. Throughout the reunion, while Amanda had been laughing and hugging old friends, the phone had received 6 text messages. I didn't need to read them to know what they said. Jay, wondering where she was. Jay, wanting to know when he'd see her again. Jay, completely unaware that his role in Amanda's life was about to be documented, categorized, and presented in a legal filing that would strip away every lie she'd constructed. I walked inside to find Derek putting on his coat, while Amanda paid him for watching Emma. She was great, Derek said. Went to bed at 8:30, no problems. Thanks, man, I said, shaking his hand. Derek met my eyes for just a second. A silent question there. I gave the slightest nod. Everything was proceeding according to plan. After he left, Amanda locked up while I checked on Emma. Our daughter was asleep, her stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm, her face peaceful in the dim glow of her nightlight. Whatever happened next, I'd make sure she was protected. That was the only thing that mattered now. Coming to bed? Amanda asked from the doorway. In a minute. She disappeared down the hall. I heard water running, the sounds of her nighttime routine, the mundane domesticity of a marriage that had been hollowed out from the inside while I'd been too busy working 60-hour weeks to notice the rot. I stayed with Emma for a while longer, watching her breathe, counting the seconds between inhales like I was calculating load-bearing capacity. When I finally went to our bedroom, Amanda was already under the covers, her phone on the nightstand, the regular one anyway, charging for the night. I undressed, brushed my teeth, went through my own routine. When I climbed into bed beside her, she rolled toward me, half asleep. "Good night," she murmured. "Good night." She was asleep in minutes, her breathing deep and even, unburdened by guilt or conscience or any recognition of what was coming. I lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling, and added tonight's discoveries to the growing file of evidence that would end this marriage on my terms, not hers. 3 to 4 years of lies. I was going to document every single one. Monday morning, I called Patricia Wolf from my car in the office parking lot. Her assistant put me through immediately after I mentioned Derek's name. "Mr. Fitzgerald," she said, her voice crisp and professional. "Derek mentioned you might be calling. What can I do for you?" I told her everything. The burner phone, the credit card, the GPS data, Bethany's revelation about the open marriage lie. She listened without interrupting, and I could hear keys clicking as she took notes. "How much evidence do you have documented?" she asked. 4 months of text messages, 18 months of credit card statements, GPS logs showing her at hotels and a residential address, witness statements from 5 people who heard her claim we had an open marriage. "That's good. That's very good." A pause. New York is a no-fault divorce state, but this kind of documentation will be crucial for custody and asset division. "Can you come in this afternoon?" I met with Patricia at 2 o'clock. Her office was in White Plains, all glass and steel, the kind of place that charged $400 an hour and earned every penny. She was in her 50s, gray hair pulled back severely, eyes that missed nothing. We spent 3 hours going through everything. She brought in a private investigator named Tony Marchetti, who reviewed my evidence and nodded approvingly. "I can have full identities on all her contacts within a week," he said. "The condo address, the guy at the French restaurant, everyone. Plus financial forensics. If she's been hiding money, I'll find it." "Do it," I said. Patricia outlined the strategy. I'd continue acting normal while Tony gathered additional evidence. We'd file for divorce and full custody simultaneously, catching Amanda completely off guard. The documentation would make it nearly impossible for her to claim anything other than minimal visitation. New York courts prioritize the child's best interests, Patricia explained. A mother who's been conducting multiple affairs, lying to friends and family, using marital funds for hotels, that's not going to play well, especially when the father has been the stable, present parent. "How long?" I asked. 6 weeks, maybe 8. We want to be thorough." I spent those weeks in a strange kind of purgatory. During the day, I worked on the Monroe Project, calculating stress loads and reviewing blueprints. At night, I came home to Amanda and Emma playing the role of oblivious husband while Tony's reports piled up in Patricia's office. Jay's real name was Jason Vance, a divorced real estate developer Amanda had met at a charity auction. The condo near the university belonged to Professor Michael Brennan, no relation to my firm, who taught literature and apparently had a taste for married women. The distinguished older man from Bisou was Dr. Richard Sutton, a cardiologist at White Plains Hospital. 3 confirmed affairs, overlapping timelines, all documented with photographs, credit card receipts, and witness statements. Tony even found hotel security footage of Amanda checking in with Jason Vance, the timestamp showing it was during one of her yoga classes. The financial forensics revealed something worse. Amanda had opened a separate bank account 2 years ago, one I'd never known about. She'd been siphoning money from our joint account, small amounts, never enough to trigger suspicion, and building a nest egg. $37,000 hidden away. She'd been planning her exit strategy while I renovated our house. "She's been preparing for this," Patricia said during one of our meetings. "The separate account, the open marriage narrative. She was building her defense in case you ever found out. She'd claim you knew, that you had your own affairs, that the money was hers to spend as she pleased. But I can prove otherwise. You can, and we will." The divorce papers were filed on a Thursday morning. I'd arranged for Amanda to be served at home while I took Emma to school. By the time I got back, Amanda was sitting at the kitchen table, papers spread in front of her, her face white. "What is this?" Her voice shook. I set my keys on the counter, carefully, precisely. "Exactly what it looks like." "Ryan, we can talk about this. Whatever you think." "I know about Jason, and Michael, and Richard." I watched her face crumble, watched the performance finally crack. "I know about the burner phone, the credit card, the bank account. I know you've been lying to everyone about our marriage for years." I can explain. No. The word came out flat, final. You can't. I have 4 months of text messages, GPS data, hotel receipts, witness statements, everything. She stood up, tears streaming down her face now. Real ones, maybe. Or maybe just another performance. Please, think about Emma. We can work through this. I am thinking about Emma. That's why I'm getting her away from you. You can't. I'm her mother. You're a liar who used our daughter's schedule to facilitate affairs. You think any judge is going to give you custody after seeing the evidence? Amanda's expression changed then. The tears stopped. Something cold and calculating slid behind her eyes. The real Amanda. The one I'd been living with all along without knowing it. You self-righteous bastard, she said quietly. You think you're so perfect, working your 60-hour weeks playing the martyr. Do you know how lonely I've been? How invisible you made me feel? So you had affairs, multiple affairs, for years. I needed something for myself, something that wasn't about you or Emma or this house or your career. Then you should have divorced me, not lied to my face every single day while sleeping with half of Westchester County. She grabbed her purse, pulled out her phone. I'm calling my lawyer. Go ahead. Mine's better. The next 8 weeks were brutal. Amanda fought for custody, for the house, for half of everything. Her lawyer tried to paint me as an absent workaholic who'd driven her into the arms of other men. They tried to claim the open marriage defense, bringing Bethany and the others in to testify that Amanda had mentioned it years ago. Patricia destroyed them. She presented the text messages, the GPS data, the financial records. She showed that I'd been the primary caregiver despite working full-time. I was the one who took Emma to school, to gymnastics, to doctor's appointments. Amanda's calendar was full of yoga and book club that turned out to be hotel visits. The judge was a woman in her 60s who looked at Amanda with barely concealed disgust as the evidence mounted. When Amanda tried to claim she'd told me about the affairs, that we'd had an understanding, Patricia presented phone records showing we barely spoke during the day. No discussions about open marriages. No consent given. Just lies. The final hearing was on a Tuesday in March, 4 months after I'd found that burner phone. The judge awarded me primary custody, the house, and 70% of our assets. Amanda got supervised visitation every other weekend and 30%, minus the $37,000 she'd hidden, which was offset against her share. This court finds that Mrs. Fitzgerald engaged in a pattern of deception that undermines the trust necessary for co-parenting, the judge said, her voice echoing in the courtroom. Her behavior demonstrates a fundamental lack of judgment that makes unsupervised custody inappropriate at this time. Amanda sat beside her lawyer, stone-faced. She didn't look at me as we left the courtroom. Didn't look at Emma, who was waiting with my mother in the hallway. I knelt down in front of my daughter. Hey, sweetheart, ready to go home? Is Mommy coming? Not today, but you'll see her this weekend. Emma nodded, accepting this the way kids do, not yet understanding what had broken in her world. I took her hand and walked out of the courthouse into spring sunshine, leaving Amanda and her lawyer behind in the wreckage. That was 2 years ago. Emma's 8 now, thriving in 3rd grade. She sees Amanda every other weekend, supervised by a court-appointed monitor. The visits are cordial but distant. Amanda goes through the motions, but the spark that made her so good at performing is gone. She's working again, some entry-level marketing job, living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Yonkers. Jason Vance married someone else. Michael Brennan retired. Richard Sutton moved to Florida. I still work 60-hour weeks sometimes, but I make sure I'm home for dinner. Emma and I cook together, do homework together, watch movies on Friday nights. She asks about her mother occasionally, and I tell her the truth in age-appropriate ways. Sometimes adults make mistakes, sometimes people grow apart. None of it is her fault. Derek and Jen have us over for dinner once a month. Emma plays with their kids while the adults drink wine and pretend everything's normal. Maybe someday it will be. I learned something through all of this, something I wish I'd understood earlier. Trust isn't the same as blindness. I'd trusted Amanda because I wanted to believe the performance, because questioning it would have meant acknowledging that I'd built my life on a foundation that was never solid to begin with. But structures don't fail overnight. They fail slowly, one compromised beam at a time, one crack spreading into the next. The collapse looks sudden from the outside, but the damage has been accumulating all along, invisible to anyone not looking for it. I look for it now. In everything. Maybe that's cynical, or maybe it's just realistic. Either way, I check the load-bearing walls. I verify the stress points. I don't assume something's solid just because it looks that way from the outside. Emma and I are building something new now. Something honest. Something that won't collapse the first time pressure gets applied, because we're building it on truth instead of performance. It's not the life I planned. But it's real. And that, I've learned, is worth more than any perfect facade.